High School Lowdown for Jeff Bird and Ernest Boker. I'm Steve Wilson. Well, Warren Central will be traveling to Region foe Northwest Rankin, and on paper that looks like a blowout, but as you well know, WC Northwest Rankin, it's always a tough one.
Yeah, at one point I think they played 5 or 6, 7 games, something like that, that were decided by a total of about 20 points over the years. Northwest Rankin, obviously the better team this year based on records, based on talent. Northwest possibly a favorite even to win 6A. But Warren Central's been in every game that they've played in. They just have a little mistake, that something that goes wrong, they kind of get behind the 8 ball a little bit, and it snowballs from there. If they can avoid that, they could really have a shot to pull an upset this week.
Well, Vicksburg will be getting its first taste of a new region opponent, Jim Hill, in their region opener. Cameron Cooksey going for his 4th straight 300-yard passing game.
Cameron's had an amazing season so far. Leads the state of Mississippi with 1,383 yards passing, 17 touchdowns. That's a great core of wide receivers to go through. He has A.J. Stamps, 27 receptions. His Clyde Kendrick, 28 receptions. Lamar Anthony, and then a tight end, Dillard Reed. That's a really good crew to go to. Jim Hill has a wide receiver named Fred Brown who's already committed to Mississippi State. But it'd be hard-pressed to find somebody going as well as A.J. Stamps, who Alonzo Stevenson this week told me that the big thing with Stamps is his yak, yards after catch. He's turning a lot of short out routes, 10-yard routes, into 30-yard gains.
Well, the other thing I noticed about Vicksburg that stood out, they finally got a rushing game underway with Darius Youngblood. He had over 100 yards for the first time in his career, and their defense was not just a speed bump, but came up with stops at critical points.
Stevens told me this week he thought Eli Brown, the linebacker that he has, played the best game they've had since Carlos Williams was there, and he was our 2-time Defensive Player of the Year.
High praise indeed. Well, PCA will be hosting Benton Academy, and the Eagles get a rest from district play.
Yeah, after a couple of district games, they, I think, played 3 in a row now, non-district games. A couple of tough ones in there. They played Tri-County in a couple of weeks. This is kind of a good start, though, to gear up for another big district game in about a month.
Well, the one thing that I've noticed about PCA and Benton that's very similar is both teams have had to change their offensive identity. I know the Eagles wanted to go with more of a power-eye, physical running game, and now they've kind of had to go to a spread because they don't have any fullbacks left. And Benton has changed up their offense, has gone from a normal I formation to more of a wing T look.
And Porter's Chapel, too, they've had some injuries on the line. That's also taken away from being able to pound the ball up in there. But when you have a quarterback like Jonah Masterson, threw for 2,000 yards at a spread last year, they've had a couple of receivers emerge. Peter Harris has done a good job out there. Newcomer Alton Burden had a 9-catch game a couple of weeks ago. They found some weapons in the passing game, and it's pretty much like falling into an old habit. Wayne Gaston coming over, he played in that same kind of offense last year. So maybe that's more of a natural fit for him than trying to pound it in there 30 times a game.
Totally agree. Well, St. Aloysius will be hosting University Christian, former MAIS Power, for their homecoming game. And pretty much, was it Murphy's Rule in full effect for St. Al last week?
Very much so. What it is about St. Al is they are a ground and pound type of team. They need to develop that offensive line pretty well. And like I said, they want to run the ball with Carlton Campbell, mix it up a little bit with the pass with Carlo Kessler. And they did that, they had 3 drives over 5 minutes last week. And they got a field goal attempt on each of the 3, made one, had one blocked, which totally changed the game around because Dexter returned that for a 95-yard touchdown. Instead of being a 14-6 one-possession game, they're down 22-3 and they're out of it. So they hope this week against University Christian, which is going to be more of a spread team with a quarterback who's a young quarterback, but who's had some success, but then some mishaps. So he had 6 interceptions coming into this game. So we'll see how they do.
Obviously, Carlton Campbell would like to get his mitts on one of those interceptions because, as he showed against, I think it was against Salem, he had that interception returned for a TD. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of High School Lowdown. For Jeff Bird and Ernest Boker, I'm Steve Wilson, and check out our sports section online at VicksburgPost.com.